This week's rider questions answered. I love doing this one. You guys know I am a big fan of all these questions. I really appreciate y'all asking all these great questions. And again, as a reminder, join on YammieNoob.co. You can ask me questions on Discord all the time. I try to answer them as best I can. And if I can answer them, our amazing community answers it on my behalf, which has been really sweet. So let's get started with the first question here. Berto Ramirez on YouTube asked me, thoughts on Yamaha's YAMT semi-automatic transmission or Honda's E-clutch? Okay, so I don't know what happened in the last 2 years in motorcycling where all of a sudden it was like everybody's going to try to build an automatic bike. There was virtually no interest in this. Honda was out there for like 10 years with the DCT system, banging the drum that we got to get new riders riding automatic. We got to do this. We got to do that. And I never saw the appeal of it really. Like it seemed like a very niche thing. I was happy it was being made, but it didn't really seem that interesting to me as a diehard motorcycle enthusiast. I was like, well, the whole point is to have the clutch and the control and like really ride the machine. I completely understand if you're not able to, if you have a disability, it's awesome that there's options that you can still ride and have that control. But if you're capable, I never understood it. But now the Yamaha YAMT system is more similar to the DCT where you have shifters on the grip and near the control module over here on the left hand. And it does away with the clutch entirely. I think Honda's E-clutch system is the coolest one that has come out in quite some time. The reason for it is because it's an automatic when you want it to be, and it's a manual when you don't want it to be. And that is super cool. It means that if you're lazy and riding and commuting in traffic, you don't have to keep feathering the clutch in and out for stop and go traffic. That's awesome, right? Like sometimes you do just want a scooter, right? Like you just want to sit there. And other times, if you want to use the clutch, you get to actually use it and ride it the way the motorcycle was intended to ride, and it bypasses the system completely. So I think that's really neat. MV Agusta has kind of figured out a solution for this for a while by using a recluse clutch alongside an up and down quick shifter. So it functionally behaves the same as the Honda, where you can pull in the clutch and it bypasses it. But Honda's E-clutch is a different mechanical system for doing it. But I'm all for it. I think this is really cool. And you guys let me know in the chat if you think that, cool, automatic or these kinds of systems, like which one's your favorite? And I'd love to kind of start the discussion a little bit there because I think it's a nuanced issue that we need to start talking about in motorcycling because Yamaha's doing it, BMW's doing it, Honda's doing it. It's getting pretty cool, All right, next question. TK on YouTube. What are your thoughts on cruise control add-ons on sport bikes? Does it take away from the beginner riders learning throttle? Any downsides to using them? So there's two schools of thoughts on this, right? You can do the Ducati approach where it's like they will not put cruise control on sport motorcycles. I think even to this day, the Panigale, even the new one, they will not put cruise control on it despite easily being able to, right? BMW understands their customer base with the S1000RR and they put cruise control on there, right? So that goes to show you there's different philosophies for cruise control on sport bikes. I don't think it takes anything away from beginner riders learning throttle control. I just think that beginner riders need to understand when to use cruise control and how to use it, right? It is not a substitute for just, flicking it on and letting the bike do whatever. I think that cruise control should really only be utilized when you're going very straight on a highway for a very long time and you know that you're going to stay there very long and there's no traffic around you. Some cruise control systems nowadays, like BMW's R1300 GS, has adaptive cruise control, which I got the chance to use just yesterday when I was doing my ride and review. And they work really well, like scary well. But having this like ghostly kind of braking is super strange, and the whole thing feels a little eerie, if I'm not going to lie. But I don't think it takes anything away from beginners learning throttle control by having cruise control on the bike, especially because the vast majority of beginner motorcycles do not come with cruise control, right? Even if you go up to an MT-07, a GSX 8R as a beginner bike, which is really stretching the envelope, a Trident 660, those kind of beginner plus bikes, R7, they don't have cruise control. The vast majority of entry bikes don't have it, so I think it's okay. I don't think it's a big deal. Okay, Kermit Ketamine, excellent name, on YouTube asks, people bully my R7 for being slow when they use 1% of their power on the street. Why do people measure with cc's? Well, this is a question as old as time, right? Why does the male species of human beings want to flex up and assert dominance and feel like because they have the faster bike, they are better. I think it's just in our nature, right? Like a lot of people ego ride motorcycles, and it's a bummer, right? It's a bummer when people just get a really fast bike because they think they're better than everybody, and they then, take it the next step and talk down to people who have smaller displacements or smaller amounts of horsepower. Having a ton of horsepower, if you don't know how to use it, really does very little for you. In fact, it's just going to scare you and yourself. But a lot of people ego ride in this way, and it's really lame, honestly. If I'm being just completely frank with you guys, I think it's really lame to go and buy a super fast motorcycle and then bully someone else for riding an R7, where the R7 is vastly capable for the vast majority of street riding and will easily keep up in almost all situations, except if you're highway roll racing, right? If you're out there doing 130, 140 miles an hour on the highways, trying to weave between traffic and do crazy stuff, yeah, an R7 is not the right tool for the job, but you shouldn't be doing that anyway. So I would say if people bully, you for your R7 and, they keep trying to measure up with their CCs, tell them to pull up to the track. Be like, let's settle it. let's see who's good, Because on street, it just takes someone being brave. That's all it really is. Next up, Piotr Prezipiorka on Instagram asked me, are 350cc Royal Enfields too small or too slow for a starter bike? Asking more for classic 350. So it really depends on where you live. The 350cc Royal Enfields, for example, in a place like São Paulo in, Brazil, is definitely not too slow, right? A motorcycle like that is going to absolutely be able to keep up and is going to be totally fine. Where I think the 350 misses the mark a little bit is that it's still quite heavy, right? It makes like 20 horsepower and like 19 foot-pounds of torque or something really small like that. But I think it still weighs well over 380 pounds or something like that. If you guys, on chat, if you have more insight on that, please correct me. But I'm pretty sure it only weighs like, it weighs about 360, 70, 80, somewhere around there pounds. So I think it's a bit dense for what it is. I wouldn't really recommend the 350cc Royal Enfields. I really think that they are actually a bit too anemic, a bit too, classically minded in that way. We've kind of moved past the point. And honestly, the price for the 350cc Royal Enfield doesn't really make sense when you can get a Triumph 400 for not much more money. So I would say definitely get the Speed 400 because that's going to be a little bit better than the 350cc Royal Enfield. But if you start looking higher up in the displacements, right, the 650 Royal Enfields are really good. Next question here. MRD Ford asked, why are insurance companies totaling out bikes with only cosmetic damage? Okay, so this is a great question. This is something that can happen if you have an older motorcycle that isn't worth as much money, and then you have, let's say, fairing damage, and you need to go get new plastics on the motorcycle. That can easily total out the bike. For example, if you go and buy a Ninja 300, right, for, let's say, $3,000 or whatever, right? And now let's say you had a low side spill and you need all new plastics on the left side. Well, all those plastics are usually connected, right? You can't really buy, you'll have to buy an entire new front piece and a piece back there. And the other part that sucks is if you're going to take it to a shop to then do the labor to fix all those plastics, putting fairings on a new bike can be kind of tricky, and they can add up those hours. And I could easily see a situation where you have a Ninja 300 or 400 or something like that, and, you have to get all new plastics, a couple cases or a lever, or, whatever it is. You could easily be totaled out. Easily. Even if the bike is totally fine, even if it just has cosmetic damage, the value to fix the motorcycle is way too high versus the actual value of the bike. The price to fix it is too high, and then the insurance company is just going to cut you a check because it's easier. But whoever can find that bike later on is going to get the deal of a lifetime because the bike is still good. It just needs new plastics, and those are great contenders for race bikes, in my opinion. So that's why insurance companies sometimes total out bikes with just a little bit of cosmetic damage. All right, Justin Lavelle on YouTube. Man, I need help choosing between the CBR 650R or the R7. Now, I want to do something a little different here. I would love to see on the chat who wants to... let's do a little poll, shall we? We'll do CBR 650R. Oops, that's the wrong. CBR 650R or the MT-07? Now, we're going to start a poll real time. There we go. Okay. So, Justin Lavelle, we're going to let the people decide. You're going to have to decide who's going to win here. And then whatever... Oh, no, you said R7. Well, okay, just imagine MT-07 is R7. Can I change that? Or I can only end it. Okay. MT-07, just pretend it's R7. I'm an idiot. I can't read, apparently. But yeah, whatever ends up winning, then you will have to choose. And this is actually really fun. I'm curious to see now. We got 50% on the CBR 650R. I think people like the Honda a little bit more. People asking some good questions here. Is it the first bike, second bike? Yeah, that's a good question. Justin did not give us too much information to try to figure out. I'm going to assume it's second bike because this kind of sounds like second bike purchase to me. I think it'd be pretty bold to go for an 85 horsepower 4-cylinder as a first motorcycle. Not the best idea, but Zug's Wangan here with the right idea. SV650 over all of those. Yeah, I agree, man. I mean, the SV650, you can't go wrong. Looks like the R7's winning. MT-07 is in the lead a little bit, 54%. We'll let that poll keep going. And Justin, if you do end up catching this, just know that the people chose your next bike. And that was the way we solved that question. Hey folks, I hope you're enjoying this Yammie Noob Livestream clip. Remember, every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Central, right here on YouTube, I do the streams. If you want a chance to participate in the live streams, head over to yammie-noob.co and become a member. You'll get access to our Discord server, automatic entries to win our giveaway motorcycles, and access to our newsletter as well. It's a great way to support the show. It's like a bike night that never ends over there. It's a lot of fun, and I'm on there all the time. Join as a member on yammie-noob.co and support the show. All right, Imran Rides on YouTube. Yammie, what do you think Yamaha needs to do to get the MT-07 up to date? Why do you think they haven't updated the MT-07 to compete with the current market? I think the reason Yamaha hasn't updated the MT-07, first of all, is because they are printing money with that machine. The basic architecture for the 689cc CP2 engine has been in development since 2013. I mean, they finished R&D on that bike and launched the first MT-07 in 2013. The frame and motor for that platform has not significantly changed in at this point 11 years, right? They're pulling a Suzuki, right? Like they have sold so many CP2 engines, right? In Tracer 7s and Tenerés and R7s and MT-07s, and all of those engines are literally the same. And that helps for reliability. It helps for cost control. You have one factory that makes one engine. You might be making it in multiple factories, but the assembly line is exactly the same, right? The materials, the putting it together, the supply chain, everything's exactly the same. So they're just printing money on this bike, right? So from a business perspective, Yamaha's doing a great thing with that. However, I think now the competition's starting to get a little stiffer, right? GSX 8S, very competitively priced. The Honda Hornet 750, right? The Trident 660, honestly, better than the MT-07, extra cylinder, all that good stuff. I think Yamaha, it's so tough because the CP2 is such a great engine. I don't really think it needs to be improved. I know that sounds crazy. I think the MT-07 just needs to get slightly better geometry, slightly better handling, and slightly more upmarket features. Basically what Yamaha did with the MT-09 this past year of giving it like slightly better looks and a slightly better screen, a full color TFT. The brakes on the MT-07 absolutely need to be addressed, in my opinion. They have the most wooden, cheap feeling brakes. If they could get some radial mount brakes on there, a proper master cylinder, maybe take the R7's brakes and just put it on the MT-07 because those work great. Maybe do a slight price increase, just a little bit for that, right? And then the bike is great. It doesn't need much more than that. It's still an awesome motorcycle, and I still think it's punchy and fun. And if you just got to keep the price right, that's what I would do. I would keep the engine and frame exactly the same and just tweak the geometry a little bit, make it a little bit more sporty, better TFT, better brake feeling. I forgot about this too. The front end on that bike is pretty woeful. Slightly better suspension, maybe, Basically take the components from the R7 and put them on the MT-07 and just zhuzh it up a little bit, and then you're fine. That's all you need. Brandon on chat here, MT-07 SP1. Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Airglide 2 on YouTube. What do you think is taking Suzuki so long in coming out with the 400cc motorcycle? This is the question of the decade, in my opinion. Suzuki has been caught completely with their pants down in this beginner bike category that has been exploding right now, right? Like, you got Aprilia selling awesome bikes. CF Moto came in and just is cleaning up shop with their price value driven bikes. Hondas and Yamahas and Kawasaki with the Ninja 500, with, the 400 basically being the GOAT, in my opinion. Suzuki has done nothing. They've done nothing. And really, to me, when I saw that Suzuki did not give one single F about the motorcycle market in general, it was two things. The first is that they pulled out of MotoGP. Inexcusable, in my opinion, especially since Alex Rins won, I think, at Valencia and at Phillip Island that year towards the end. The project was doing amazing, and they're like, we don't care, we're pulling out. Terrible decision. The second is the fact that Suzuki has not updated any of their sport bikes in like 9 years. The GSX R1000 has been updated since 2017. Gixxer 750 and 600s have not been touched in God knows how long. And they sell a Gixxer 250 still. I mean, it's crazy. It's like, why on God's green earth would you sell a Gixxer 250 in today's market, right? To not even bump up the displacement. So, yeah, I think that at this point, Suzuki has missed the boat, and I don't know what they're going to do. I don't even know if they're going to do anything. I think they're focusing on a totally different strategy, going after the middleweight market, the adventure market. I don't know. So, yeah, I would love to see a new Suzuki beginner bike. There are rumors that the DRZ 400 is going to get fuel injected with the 6-speed box. Some patents came out, but I'll freaking believe it when I see it because that thing is a dinosaur. So, yeah. From Rags to Races on YouTube asked, what year would be the best pick for getting a used R1, Papa Yam? So if memory serves me correctly, let me see here. There was some year that was bad for the R1. I want to say it was 17 or 16. This is really stretching my R1 specific knowledge. But in my opinion, basically anything post 2015, you're getting like the full Zoot R1s that exist nowadays, right? When they did that big update in 2015. They've basically been the same since then. They haven't changed too much. So anything post 2015, I think would be a great choice for a used R1. If you can't get one of those, if you're priced out of them or whatever, the 2009 to 2015 was also awesome. That was the bug-eyed one with the exhaust out the back, and all of those have the cross-plane sound. I think if you're getting a used R1, you got to get a cross-plane. If you go too far back in the catalog, they don't have the cross-plane sound, and to me, R1's got to have the cross-plane sound. So, yeah, I would say that for sure. Zugs Wangen on YouTube. This guy was on chat before, wasn't he? He's a dedicated user. It's cool. He asked, are there any good retro-looking standard bikes anymore? All I can think of is like Z650 RS or Stove V7, the Moto Guzzi, the Stone V7. There's plenty of good-looking retro standard bikes. You perhaps have to expand your definition a little bit, right? Like XSR 900, XSR 700 are standard bikes that are retro-looking, right? They're a little more on the sporty side. The Z900 RS, I think, also looks incredible. That's a standard motorcycle. I think the Bonneville lineup from Triumph, all of those are awesome. The Speed 1200 is an amazing motorcycle. Those are all standard and work extremely well. And I think they just released a brand new 1200 RS, which Tejas actually asked me here on chat. He said, what are my thoughts on that? Very excited on that. I do think that it's a bummer that they delineated the bike so much that they created a cheaper base model with a more expensive model that has, like the TFT and some other stuff with it too. And they did away with the analog clocks, which super, super big bummer in my opinion. So I don't know, but we'll see. But yeah, those are just some good-looking retro bikes that exist. There are plenty of other ones, but yeah. And boys, that's going to wrap up the questions. As a reminder, you join on YammieNoob.co, and there's none of these live stream shenanigans. I'm just there, more low-key. I'm hanging out. I'm doing drive-bys on people in the chat. It's great. It's a good time. Boys, you've made it to the end of this video. There's no more content, but there is a vast catalog of Yammie Noob content you can keep watching. And in fact, if someone in the comment section could actually crunch those numbers and tell me how long you could continuously watch Yammie Noob, I would love to know. It's probably months, if not years. And while you're at it, go to yammie-noob.co and get signed up to win this RS457. You guys already know what's going on. You know the deal. If you're a longtime fan of giveaway bikes, head to the site, get entered to win. Keep watching Yammie Noob.